Now, there is this one story.
I talk about a lot of challenges within the course and
Yes.
how I was able to manage and bridge ends and so on and so forth.
Maybe for the benefit of the viewer,
Yeah.
we can talk about that experience where you were subjected to a very interesting operation during one of your exams that you had not prepared for.
Yes.
That's the PAG.
Yes.
The PAG operation.
Towards the end, senior 4, after all that rigor, veterinary medicine, I found many people repeating.
Yes.
And actually, I remember there was a boy who was repeating the maximum you can repeat that time, because the course was 4 years, was 6 years. So this boy was repeating for the 6th year.
He had gone for length.
And he failed, unfortunately.
Oh no.
But in the last year he was repeating, he decided to moon by moving from faculty to the hall of residence on foot.
Okay.
For a whole year. But you can imagine somebody mooning like this, and at the end of the day,
Again
fails the exam and is discontinued without any certificate. I'm glad now they have put departments, so you can decide to choose to do one of the sectors of the vet course, which was very broad that time. But now they have put some sections, so people can do what they can afford or what they wish to afford, either certificate, diploma, or degree of some of the disciplines that we used to study all together in the same course of veterinary medicine. So I come to the last year of the 4th year. If you fail the practicals, you are either going to repeat you are going to repeat the year. Yes. And if you don't pass again, you are allowed to repeat 2 times, like I said. Yes. And then the worst would be, but nobody would like to repeat a year in veterinary.
It is so painful.
Because it is very, very rigorous course. Where other people do 3, 4, 5 courses in a week, in a week, you do 8 courses in a day. So most of your time, including weekends, are occupied. So I did all that work, and I have assessed that by the close of because you are able to get leakages, that you have done well here, done well here.
Yeah.
I find that I've done very well in my theory. Out of 70, maybe I was scoring around 45, something like that. And I'm waiting only to top up the practical. So we enter the practical room, the decisive moment. And when we enter the practical room, we're in a group. I think we're 7.
Okay.
And as we enter there, this lecturer chooses to give us one of the most complex assignments in the operation. He said, I want you to perform pericardotomy on the waiting patient. I said, which patient? And I looked on the other side, there was a dog. So that was the patient he was referring to.
Wow.
Perform pericardotomy. So everybody was like, performing pericardotomy on this dog? First of all, we could not remember the detail. We could understand the word, but remembering the details of what is involved in pericardotomy is something very difficult, and most of the people will not correctly remember what it involves.
So maybe for the benefit of the viewer, doctor,
Yes.
what is the pericardotomy?
Pericardotomy.
So that as the viewer looks forward to read the story, they at least know what it is.
Sometimes on the heart, there's of course always on the heart, there's a pericardial sac.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there can be an effusion, either due to injury, like for animals, the big animals, when they eat hardware or iron, it can pierce, because the heart is near one of the stomachs. So it can pierce, and then the pericardium becomes inflamed, and then there's accumulation of fluids within the sac. So that fluid presses on the heart, causes very difficult breathing. Yes. So there's accumulation of fluids in the pericardial sac, which encloses the heart
Okay.
and protects it.
Okay.
So when there is accumulation of fluid, it will compress the heart. So it will not be able to beat normally.
And so affects the circulation of the
So
blood.
it affects the actual saturation of the blood, and also of the lungs. There's poor sometimes breath, and also edema, and so on, and so many other complications which come with the poor saturation.
So if not addressed, can lead to death.
Of course, yes, it can lead to death. So perform pericardiotomy.
So doctor, you figure out how to go about it.
Yes, and it was quite. Even me at first, I could not imagine that this man can tell us to do that, because it is very complex. Why? That operation is only done, or can only be done in advanced theaters where you have got ventilation machines which breathe for the patient. Because I imagine that immediately after you open, because you can't reach the pericardium without opening the thorax. And once you open the thorax, the lungs will collapse. So if the lungs collapse, if there was a ventilation machine, it would not do that, because they would breathe. The machine would breathe for the dog. But in this case, we had to figure out ourselves, or me as the chief surgeon, to put somebody to emulate that machine, to breathe for the dog.
Dear viewer, if you want to get the full story, the full length of that bit, we'll have to find this book.
Yes.
So doctor will have to move on to yet another segment of this book. We want to see you now in the field of work. Day one, you're finished university, the story is quite long, but want to see you now getting to the field, that field that you loved so much. Just give us a few insights. I know that it wasn't easy as well as you got into the field to start delivering on what you had learned from university.
Yeah, incidentally, when I finished my university, I did not join the field straight, which was my desire, and it's normal in work. I had done so well in my subjects. So, my immediate supervisor in obstetrics and gynecology, which was one of my best subjects, requested me to stay at the university and be a teaching assistant in that subject. Inside me, I did not feel that I wanted to do this because of my ambitions elsewhere. But on the other hand also, this guy had been so good to me as a student. I said, okay, fine, let me just give it a try. But really, I knew that I was there in transit. Why? I could see that the professors who were in Makerere at that time, we are really also struggling to make ends meet. Some of them were like taxi drivers. They would be driving taxi to make ends meet. Some of them, the socio-economic situation was really bad in that time. Some of them would ride bicycles, going to the kiosks, and making ends meet. So I said, okay, fine, let me do this. It's not my ambition, but I will only do it for a short time. And
which year are we looking at there?
I think we are looking at the year after 1975, after my graduation.
Yeah, that was quite a turmoil.
Yes, that was during Oboti 2, I think. That was that till 12 or Oboti 2? 75. 75 was Amin.
It was Amin, actually.
Yeah, that was. No, not 75, 85.
85.
Yeah. No, 75.
75.
85 was after I graduated in 85. I graduated in 85. So that should have been somewhere in the 85. Because I made my graduation in 85.
Okay.
I joined in 80, Then I graduated, I finished in 84, graduation was 85. So around 85, that's when I was going through this experience. Situation, liberation had been ended, but things were still very difficult. Yes, things were still very difficult. For rehabilitation was taking place in some places, but not a lot had been done to put things back to normal. So I went through those experiences. So I worked for only about 9 months.
Okay.
And I still decided to go and pursue what I thought was my ambition of working out in the field. And so there were adverts in the papers through the Public Service Ministry wanting vets, extension officers to apply. And so I applied. And I was called for the interview and I was successful. Yes, for the interview, with that interview. And I was offered to work as a field veterinary extension officer and posted in Kampala district. Yes.
So there you begin your work, your journey of work.
Yeah, there I begin my journey of work amidst a lot of challenges. One challenge, of course, I could see there was a lot of poverty in the office.
Yeah.
And most of the staffs who are there are ill-facilitated in terms of transport. Because if you're going to be a field vet, you need transport.
Yes.
In terms of the materials to use, you need to have, if you are a vet, you need to have a kit, veterinary kit, that has equipment that you are going to use, obstetrics and gynecology. Doing surgeries, cesarean, for the big animals, ruminotomy was a very common surgical operation. And of course, medicines to administer to the animals. But for me, the biggest challenge was transport.
Yeah.
Because I needed to go out to the field to do some work. But of course, also money, because I was just beginning to do some work. So after trying several times from my fellow colleagues to see if they could help me with their transport so that I can go out and do work, and failing, I was almost resigning. Then somehow I chanced to get one of these friends of mine. I can mention his name because he knows it very well, Dr. Higa. He had qualified quite some years back, I think about 4 or 5 years back, earlier than me. And he had a small car, but also had a new motorcycle, which was called Beta. And so he was kind enough to say, I see you are very eager to work. I could help you with my motorcycle because I'm not using it. And then I felt like it was a miracle from heaven. Somebody offering to give me a motorcycle.
Not even a bicycle.
Not even a bicycle.
You're skipping a lot.
Motorcycle. I said, yes. Said, I think it was in the middle of the week. Then he said, you come on Saturday. He was living somewhere in Chambogo. Yes, that's where he lived. And so on Saturday I went, reached his home, straight away he took me to the garage and he showed me the motorcycle. And then he asked me, do you know how to ride? For sure, I'd never held even the horn of a motorcycle.
There was a challenge.
But of course, I knew if I said I didn't know how to ride,
that would
then
be the end.
certainly he would not risk his motorcycle. So I said, yes, I know how to ride a motorcycle. Do you have a license? I didn't have any license. But confidently I said, yes, I have a license. So okay, fine. Then he removed the cycle from the garage, and then he gave it to me.
And handed over the keys.
Handed over the keys. Inside there I was like...
In your mind you're racing, you're wondering where to start.
Exactly. So I started to wonder how to start. If I fail, this man will automatically withdraw. But when I observed the nature of his compound, there was a slope in the road leading to his compound. And beyond the slope there was a corner. So I thought, if I slope on this motorcycle, beyond the corner will not be able to see me. So I held on to the motorcycle. Like, of course, I knew how to ride a bicycle,
Yeah.
and the skills
So you could
for
balance.
balancing are more or less the same.
Yeah.
So I held onto the motorcycle.
You started?
Confident. No, I didn't start it.
Okay.
Of course I didn't start it. I didn't start it. So I just wanted to get out of sight,
Yep.
but confidently out of sight. And that's what I did. So I sat, balanced on the motorcycle.
You
and
rolled.
then I rolled. And then went beyond the corner. I could see that he cannot see me anymore.
Yep.
And what followed was a lot of drama, and it's there.
It is in the story. All right, Doctor, I think we have already said so much, and I want us to talk about you founding CD,
Yes.
because we can't tell the entire story, but we want the viewer, the viewer to get a snippet of how you start to establish CD as a community organization.
Yes, but
Just
maybe
briefly.
perhaps just to mention that before starting SID, I had a lot of exposure when I joined the Uganda Catholic Secretariat.
Oh, yes.
When I joined the Uganda Catholic Secretariat.
You did quite a lot there.
Yes, and I was very happy to join that institution. Why? I had a lot of ideas, I had a lot of zeal, and I had a lot of innovations that I thought, of course, they could not be implemented in the government setup because they were restricted in their own ways. But when I joined the Uganda Catholic Secretariat as a young boy, I was surprised that they gave me all the opportunities to bring across ideas, and they bought the ideas. And I was able to put in practice all of those ideas with their support.
Great.
As a national institution. And that's how I gave birth to so many development programs in that institution.
Great.
Some of them are still running up to today. They can all be described in that book. And that's where I thought I touched so many people's lives in development, in livestock as a vet, in agriculture, in emergency support activities, and in other development innovations. In livestock, I was among the first people working with somebody from Tanzania. There is a technician, friend of mine, who worked in Church of Uganda to bring across the program which is popularly known as Zero Grazing Program those years.
Okay.
And I was among the first initiators of that program. It touched many people's lives in their homes. I did a lot of extension work. I set up quite a number of activities. I set up a multiplication farm for those crossbred cows locally. Formerly they were imported. So there was quite a lot. And I got a lot of experience for 12 years doing all of those activities.
Wow.
And my experiences are all listed in that book.
Great.
And so it was not very difficult for me, to answer your question,
To venture out.
to go and found CD. Because the question is, what does the person in an ordinary home need, irrespective of where the home is?
Yes.
Maybe in the rural or in the urban. The person needs food, the person needs sanitation and water, clean water.
Yes.
The person needs health. The person needs voice. Maybe connections here and there. And so, together with the founders of this, there were some colleagues also who had worked at the Uganda Catholic Secretariat. We joined together and founded CD, but along those lines.
Yeah.
We decided to pursue an integrated approach because in the home, all of those things are needed. And that's why it is called Community Integrated Development Initiatives. But the beginning was difficult because I remember I started in half a room. The building still exists in Susie House along Osambia Gaba Road. And half a room because it's what I could afford to pay that time. And anyway, there were not so many activities that I could do. Yes. But the owner of the building trusted me, gave me half the room, and rented the other half of the room to somebody. And in there, I worked like I've never worked before. I think I was working 2 days in 1 day.
Yes.
For sure. With a lot of determination. And I think when we are beginning things, or when we are doing things, the first important thing for success is for you to say, I will not fail, I will succeed. And you work only towards success. You do all possible for success to happen than for failure to happen.
Exactly.
And usually I think God will be on your side. And that's what I did.